Hey, how's it going, VIP Mechanics? Here's another YouTube video. Working on John Deere Snowblower. Won't start. So, first thing I did was just drained a little bit of gas out of the bottom of the float bowl here. And I immediately found out that was super skunky and old. So that right away tells you there's some old gas that's probably just tarnished in the bottom of the float bowl, plugged up the jets, and nothing's working. The other thing I noticed right off the bat, and this is common, is the primer line is cracked and broken. So when you pump the primer, nothing's actually going to be happening on this guy. So nothing hooked up there, and hopefully the primer actually still works inside. Hopefully it's all hooked up still. So we're gonna take the carb off. One screw here, another one on the back, and then I'm gonna just unhook the fuel line in behind here, pull it off, and then we just wiggle this this throttle linkage here, and that should be, and then obviously rip this off the rest of the way, cut it, and then we'll get her on the bench and show you what I find. All right, guys, so we got the carburetor off here. First things first, guys, when you're working on these carburetors, especially if you don't really know what you're doing, but even if you do know what you're doing, get your bench cleaned off. Mine's pretty messy, but at least I've got a workspace here on this nice white towel where I can see things when they fall. I can place things into a clean area of the rag once I've done cleaning the part. And it just helps organize everything and speeds things up when you're trying to reassemble. So anyways, I just took the brackets off the carburetor to kind of get them out of the way. The other thing is this bracket here is, it was in the way of this screw here. So that's important. I'm gonna now just take the bowl off. So take the bowl off by undoing the nut here. Leave the screw intact, don't touch that. Just take this nut off here and then the bowl will come off. All right, we got the bowl off. So you take out this screw here at the bottom of holds the bowl on. So you take this out. It's pretty nasty in there, so I will be cleaning that out as well. This is important to have that perfectly clean. I'll explain why later. Down in here you've got a jet, and I have to clean out in there as well. It's nasty in there. So the bowl itself doesn't look bad, of course, but I flushed through a bunch of fuel, and it is a little bit dirty, but not too bad. It's just kind of got some green slime in there. But guaranteed, these jets are completely plugged, because you can see down in there that it's pretty rusty. I'll just see if I can shine a light in there. Yeah, you can kind of see how rusty and nasty it is in there. So we're gonna see if we can take some components apart on this and clean them out. And sometimes it's hard to do. Sometimes you just can't clean these out. And they end up, you break them, taking them apart or something. So there's a little pin here for the float bowl. That'll come out. Put it aside. The float and needle and seat will come out together. So we'll kind of pull them out gently. Nothing's gonna fly out of here. It's all good. So just pull that straight out. So there's your needle and seat. Now on this particular needle, you'll notice that it's completely it's complete metal. The end of the needle is not rubberized. So that means there is a little rubber O-ring seal down inside that hole still. So you can't start blowing compressed air in, or you're gonna blow that little rubber O-ring out of there, and you can see it in there, it's black. And if it's gone and flown across the shop, you're toast. That's a hard one to find. So that one there you need to pick out just with the tiny little pick tool, and then you can continue cleaning a little bit more. So the next thing we're gonna do here, folks, is we're gonna take out this mixture screw here. You can see it on the side of the carburetor. This bracket here was in the way. This is your choke bracket. Basically that goes on here like this. So I pulled that choke bracket out so I can take this screw out. Now this screw is adjusted. So right now it's adjusted for
whatever it was adjusted at from either factory or the last person who took this apart. So what you want to do is, to find out where it's adjusted at, you want to turn this screw in until it seats. So try to count your revolutions. So we're going to go half. It's half a turn. 1 turn. And just with gentle pressure, I can't screw it in anymore. You don't want to ram it, but that's 1 full turn. So to go back to original would be all the way in and then half a turn and 1 full turn out. And that's the adjustment. So now I know where the adjustment is 1 full turn out from fully seated. So now I can go ahead and remove this, and I know where to go back to kind of zero it off for my mixture adjustment. So unscrew this, and it's just a little needle screw that's in there. So that'll need to be cleaned out as well. So I got the bowl cleaned out. Just be careful of this O-ring here around it. I always blow things out with compressed air immediately prior to putting back together, because if you get a little bit of dust or something in there, it can make a mess for you, because all it needs is a tiny piece of dirt to get in to the needle and seat or into a little jet hole, and you're back to square one again. So when you reassemble, just make sure everything is blown off clean, your hands are clean. I will not use these gloves to reassemble, and everything goes back absolutely sanitary. So inside here, I just wanted to point out there's a needle jet in here. So this is the same part that's inside. It's probably hard to see. Let's like adjust here a little bit, maybe. All right, so in here, up top, a little needle jet sticking through. It's a tube that basically starts here and then goes through. Now, that needs to be perfectly clean through. So what I did is I just ran some wire through it, wire like this, made sure that hole was clear. Generally, that's really sometimes that's all you can do. However, if you can take that needle jet out, it's even better, because there is a little tiny hole drilled into the side of it that allows fuel in and basically sets up your fuel supply for idling, and it's important. So it's connected to a fuel hole or port. Let me see if I can get the light right there. Right there. So that'll blow fuel into there for idling purposes. And then when you're wide open, fuel will come up through the actual main jet hole. So that hole is kind of important to be cleaned out. Now, I took my needle jet out. It wasn't easy to do. What I did, a little trick, because there's no way to grab it, is I take a tiny screwdriver, basically a Robertson screw, and I just start threading it in with my fingers, and then I tighten it in with a screwdriver, just snug, and then I used a pair of side cutters to basically pry the screw out like this and pry on it like that, and then it pulls the needle jet out. Now this one was really stuck. I had to re-screw the screw in. It slipped out a few times. I had to re-screw it in about 3 times, and then I actually applied heat to this carburetor just with a heat gun, not a flame, but a bit of heat. And then I actually pried on it inside here as well with a screwdriver, and I got it to come out. So it was really dirty, not the inside of it was, but the outside was. So it was fairly corroded inside. And then I pushed it back down and in, and it's good to go. So I know that's clean. My needle and seat is ready to go back together. I blew out the ports for my mixture screw. Basically your air screw. I'm not sure if that's an air screw or a fuel screw. Generally, if it's on the air side of the carburetor, it's an air screw. And if it's on the fuel side of the carburetor, it's a fuel screw. So as we know, this is air side and this is the fuel side. So I'm thinking this is a fuel screw. Nonetheless, they adjust the same. Well, they adjust for idle mixture essentially. And this one might be, yeah. The only difference is when you're doing it with an air screw, it'll lean out as you unscrew or back out the screw. And with a fuel screw, it'll richen the mixture as you unscrew or reverse the screw out. So the adjustment is opposite, but they do the same job. And other than that, it's fairly clean. Like it's dirty on the outside, but it's internally, it's clean and wiped down. All my orifices are all clean. One way to check is you blow WD-40 into an orifice and then take compressed air into that same orifice and find out where that WD-40 comes out. And I watch closely and you'll get an idea that most of these ports here will come back out through the main jet and they'll pop out through here. This is obviously your primer ball, so it just goes into here. I don't put compressed air into that very forcefully, just gently to clean it out. And then obviously your fuel supply goes in straight in through here and into your needle and seat. So you can blow air into that. However, that little rubber seal that's down inside there, you can kind of see it. There's a white rubber seal right there. That will pop out. So you can't use compressed air too strong on your fuel inlet or it'll blow that out. And if you lose it, you need to get a rebuild kit to get that little seal. So I'm going to blow air gently that way, but I know that that's free and clear. So I'm not going to need to worry too much. Starting to reassemble now. And the only other thing I want to make sure I clean out is this. This is the screw that went in the bottom of the float bowl to hold the float bowl on. So I want to make sure that these orifices are clean. There's an orifice here. It's rusty here, and then just down into here, and just make sure that's all cleaned out. And that's about it. It's more of a drain, but I don't know what that is. It might be a needle. It might be an adjuster. I'll have to take that apart and find out. Okay, so we got this all cleaned out. So this is basically your main jet adjustment. So it's your mixture adjustment for full throttle, basically. So this is basically your float bowl plug as well, or bolt that goes onto it. So what this does essentially is there's an orifice here on the side there, and that allows fuel from the float bowl to go in through that orifice, up through the center. And when it comes up through the center here, it gets forced into obviously the center up through the main needle jet. And then that gets mixed in here with your air mixture or your air coming in from intake. So this is also an adjustment. I did the check. So I went all the way into seated on this screw, one turn full, and took it all the way out, cleaned it, went all the way into seat, backed it out one full turn. So it's back to adjustment again. Make sure that you're careful when you take this apart, because there's a spring on here, there's a little brass washer, and then there's a seal, a rubber O-ring seal. So the washer always goes against the spring when you're reassembling. Other than that, I think we are ready to put back together. I'm going to clean things off and reassemble. Okay, so everything's reassembled. Carburetor's back together. I just wanted to do a quick fuel sample. So out of the fuel line here, I just put a cup here, drained a bit of fuel into the cup, just to check and see what I'm looking at here. So I'm looking for things like black floaties in here. I'm looking for water. I'm smelling it to see how old the fuel might be. This is brand new premium fuel. It smells good. And it's clean. The bottom of this fuel tank must be fairly clean, because I don't see any floaties or anything at all in it. So that's a good sign. If I do see some nastiness in the fuel like that, what I'll sometimes do is just adapt a fuel filter onto the end of this and do a loop or something with the fuel line and either here or right at the back of the tank. So an inline filter is always nice. And other than that, the primer line here, I'm going to it's cracked here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it. I can afford that, whatever that is, 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to just cut it there. I'm going to rehook it back up. I know it's working because I pressed on it here and I can hear it hissing through the end. So I know the rest of it is plugged in and not cracked and broken. So just reassemble now. See how it goes. All right, final check, folks. Got the carburetor reinstalled. And then I have my primer line here that I just snipped the end of it off. Just the piece that was busted. Snipped it off, and then I had to just kind of work the end of it a bit, warm it up, and then slipped her back over. So that's all intact. The choke is back intact, and fuel line is on. Fuel is turned on, and no leaks. So you always want to check underneath here to make sure that there's no leaks from the float bowl. You'll know right away. That means your float bowl is sealed, of course, and no leaks that way. And then also, you know, your needle and seat is sealing, because fuel would run out of the carburetor. Oops, sorry. Fuel would run out of the carburetor right here and be pouring out of here. Basically just be draining from the fuel tank. So no leaks here underneath, no leaks coming out of the carburetor. So I know that that's sealed up. And I'm just gonna reassemble my shroud here and fire it up. So I'll be back with you when we make the first pull. All right, let's see how it goes here. Got the primer going. Full choke.